How doing? See ya, Maddie. All right, what's happening?
Doesn't he look good though?
Feel all right.
You're supposed to be all, you know, managerial beat up like.
I am. But I had a couple weeks off though, so you get over it.
All right, that's fair. Well, we could have probably put another 300 in this room because there's no shortage of Don Mattingly fans. Surprise you that people still, you know, that mutual connection you have with people in this base, even though you haven't now been here for a few years.
Yeah, really, it is. It's been a long time. It doesn't seem like very long that have not been part of, you know, the organization. Last time I played was 95, so it's been a long time. It seems like yesterday that I watched Griffey run around the bases or whoever it was, and yeah. So let's
go with whoever it was.
Yeah, whoever it was. So
let's not give any more credit.
Yeah.
That's
but it's went really fast. But I always, you know, I love coming back to New York. I feel like as it was such a, you know, I was telling a story last night a little bit at Joe Torre's event that we did. They honored Tino last night, and you know, I got drafted by the Yankees, and I thought I was going to get drafted by Cincinnati or St. Louis. I'm from the Midwest, so you just think because those are the only teams you're going to see. You don't understand as a high school kid who's always watching, especially, you know, in those days. So getting drafted by the Yankees, I'm kind of like, the Yankees. You knew who they were, but you don't really know that much about them where I'm at. But I was telling my wife, I was like, it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Because I was, you know, coming from a small town, but I loved playing, and I was really confident on the inside in myself. And I think that was the thing that I loved about New York was that I could just go play, and didn't really need to do anything else. And I think it seems like the people appreciated that's all I really cared about was just playing and playing hard every day, and I just kind of grind through it. And it seems like there was that kind of connection that, you know, try not to make any excuses. It's a no excuse town for me. It's like nobody wants to hear. There's too many hardworking people. When you walk the streets and you see this area and how tough, not necessarily how tough it can be everywhere, but how many people are working really hard, that they don't want to hear your excuses that you missed a ground ball because of whatever reason, right? You just missed it, and you didn't make the play. So I tried to do that all the time and just kind of keep up with that my whole career.
Why managing though? I mean, a lot of players leave the game like, you know, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. I'm not going to manage. But you seem like you've slipped right into coaching naturally, and then now managing. Why?
I love the effect as the last few years of my career. What Buck was able to do, I thought, was really the kind of the changing of the turning point for the organization. Kind of, we had some rough years there and lean years in the, you know, early 90s, you know, kind of tough. But Buck kind of brought a different light. He brought the right players in. We bring Gallego and Spike Owen and then Paul O'Neill. We brought some guys that are just competitive guys. So I've seen the effect that managers had. I watched La Russa's teams when Oakland would come to town and they would just kind of stomp on you. And I loved watching his teams, you know, the way they went about it. And we had a different manager every year. Like, obviously the opposite of what's happened since Joe came in, Joe Torre, and then to Joe Girardi, over 20 years, right, of two guys. Well, I played 13 years and probably had 13 different, well, not really 13 different because Billy 3 times.
Who's your favorite out of all those, though? Out of all that whole mixture of?
You know, obviously you learn from everyone, but it's hard not to have Yogi Berra as your favorite guy because he's one of the best people I think I've ever been around as far as the way he treated people and the way he treated the players. I think I learned a lot from him, but you learn a lot from everyone.
Tell me what your prototypical team looks like. Not to get into your Marlins yet or Yankees, whatever, but if you were to have the perfect team, play exactly the way you wanted, did everything you said, was set up the way you wanted, how does that team look?
Well, it'd be smart. I want a team that's smart, that plays the game right, that understands, you know, where to be and why, you know, throws the ball the right base, takes the extra base when it's there, knows when you take chances, when you don't take chances, has a mentality for the game, competitive, right? I want guys that will compete, and that sounds silly at the major league level, but you'd be surprised how many guys are not as competitive as you'd like them to be.
That's going to last about 3 seconds with Jeter.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. He is a competitive guy, and obviously we see that. You don't get to see that. He doesn't really show that, but he shows it on the inside. He knows it on the inside and shows it when he plays. But other than that, he's not going to go talk about it. But basically, a team that can do that. And if you're talking about how you want to build it, you want to build it with a combination of guys. You want to have some flexibility within your roster. You want to have guys that can play multiple, especially nowadays if your bullpen in the National League is going to be 8 guys and you're going with 4 on the bench. You want more flexibility with your players. You want guys that can play the infield, that can play the outfield, that can play multiple positions. You would like that combination of a player. That's not easy to get. But you would really like to have at least 3 guys that can really hit. Within a lineup, that sounds silly too, because you'd like 9.
Meaning hit back, good pitching,
I
any
mean,
pitching.
that hits the good guys.
Yeah.
The guys that can really hit, and those are the guys that hit good pitching. In big situations are always kind of there all the time. Then you have your combination of players that there's going to be guys that thump on righties and thump lefties, and are not quite as consistent. But you need like 3 in your lineup that are really can put the ball in play and you can count on all the time. Pitching wise, you like obviously everybody wants starting pitching that can keep you in the game early and be able to keep your bullpen intact over the course of the season.
What made you? There's a lot of things that made you really different and interesting, but the fact that you were such a good hitter. But how did you become such a good fielder? And what does it take to become such a good fielder? It's kind of like an understated art these days, but yet when you get into playoffs, World Series, it becomes so important.
Yeah. Well. Again, I think you play as a kid. You just go play, and you don't know if you're really good at something or not, and then you just try to get better all the time. I think just the competitive side of, because right when I signed, I was put directly in the outfield. I hadn't played the outfield in like 3 years. High school, I played first and pitched. Right away, I was an outfielder, and so I had to learn that quickly. So you just go to work.
First base, your first choice of where you want to ultimately play, or
first base is probably where I was best. Obviously, I remember just coaches. They would mess around and send me hit me ground balls because I played there was kind of my secondary position, and they were like, "Where'd you learn to do that? Where'd you learn to do this? And I'm like, I just do it, right?" But you learn from little things. Joe Pepitone was a guy that I learned a lot about footwork around the bag. And interestingly enough. Joe Altobelli was another guy a name that you may have heard, a guy in the minor leagues and coming up talk about playing the ball off certain tips. And then you watch players. You watch guys like interesting John Mayberry was the guy that taught me really how to be able to catch the ball and throw it without moving your feet almost. Basically try to catch it on a rock. Like you're catching,
wow.
I mean rocking. Like as you're catching that ground ball, you're kind of getting a little motion where it's a throw right out of your glove where you don't really have to take an extra step. And that was something I didn't really realize coming through. So you just learn and get better from people. But at the end of the day, I think defense is something that you just got to want to be good at because it's important to win games. And I think that's what gets overlooked sometimes because we talk about offense. We know we need it, but defense wins. And I think I tell people, anybody can be a good defensive player because you can learn to be in the right spot. Now, you can't necessarily be Omar Vizquel at short, who can, just totally amazing. But you can learn to be in the right spot, and you can learn to know where to throw the ball and understand the situation of the game. So defense is something that you want to do, and because it's not going to get you a lot of attention unless you're one of the premier guys, but it will win games. And as a manager, you love it when guys they want to be good.
Cuts innings a lot shorter. It's just like in Little League. You start throwing that ball around, and then before you know it, it's 12 runs.
It happens everywhere.
2 things before we get it. We're live on Facebook, by the way, and we're going to take some of your questions, some Facebook questions. But Jeter, what kind of relationship did you have there? Obviously, you were in a dugout with him a bunch of years, and what's your feeling about this going forward? Motion all of a sudden with the captain.
Well,
It's really like our two most popular Yankees of like all time now have regrouped and went down to South Beach.
Gone fishing.
I got to tell you, I'm jealous. I mean, got the weather, you're down in sunny Florida. It's not right. But
I'll tell you, and I've told my wife this, I'm so excited, really, what's going on down there. I think it's going to be a great situation. I think as a manager, probably the most excited I've been about being in a situation that I went to Miami before Derek came in and his group and bought the club. But I moved from LA in a good team to be in a place that we could build something. And where it was, you gotta do everything right. Your draft's got to be good. Your minor league's got to be good. You can't afford to make mistakes on the free agent market. And so that's really what intrigued me about going to Miami, because it was a chance to build something where when you move on, hopefully I'm there a long time. I want to be there a long time. When you move on, that you've left an organization in a great shape that's sustainable from the standpoint of it can be good every year because your minor leagues are stacked. Minor leagues come up, the guys playing the game right. You're building players, you're teaching them the right way. So now you've got a constant flow of guys coming up. And that's really the way you have to build it in Miami. I feel like Derek, that's what he wants, building through the system, and I'm just excited to be part of that.
cool. Quick footnote, January 9th.
January 9th.
Don Mattingly Charities.org. If you want to go to an unbelievable event, because I always say everybody's from Brooklyn. Anything great that's happening is from Brooklyn. Anything great that happens with baseball always and it starts with the Yankees. But anyway, you got Bernie Williams.
Bernie Williams is coming to town.
If you've ever been to any of his events, they're amazing.
No, they're
really
fun.
Cool. Yeah.
Pretty laid back. My personality is pretty low key off the field for sure, but we like it to be a fun event for guys. We do it. We started an inner city program, RBI program in Evansville to get kids playing. We got over 300 kids playing now. We're doing a reading program, really educational for kids that are underserved. It's really growing. It's been fun. It's been a dream of mine for a while, and it's really the fact that it's starting to come together has been really fun to be a part of that, and to have someone to help us grow towards helping a lot of kids.
That's what it's about.
It really is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and everybody says, "Oh, what do you want to do? What are you trying to accomplish?" I'm like, I just want kids to have a chance and to be able to make choices, right? And that's one thing you would like for kids that don't have the same opportunity maybe as some of the others. But if you give them a chance, at least a choice, and some opportunities and options that, hey, if you stay in school, if you keep doing your work, you have an opportunity. If you don't stay in school and you don't do your work, then your opportunities go away. And you really want to help kids make sure they know that there's opportunity there for them, because there may not be hope, at home, or the situation they're in may not be very hopeful. But I think we know there's a chance if we do things right.
DonMattingly.org if you want more information. Now, just one thing before we do a Q&A.
We're going to hit?
Well, we're not going to hit because we can hit, although I wish I could. But it'd still be interesting to give me just a couple basic tips, a couple of kids in the audience. Like, what does it take to be a good hitter? If you're just starting from scratch, what are the couple fundamental things that maybe the average person wouldn't know?
I would think simply, just hand-eye coordination starts with, right? Being able to keep your eye on the ball. You hear that a lot, right? That's pretty simple.
But a lot of people don't see the ball.
Exactly. They don't. A lot of things we talk about the simplicity of hitting, which I really believe it should be simple. It shouldn't be easy, but it's simple. I think we would start with. I always start with kids like, from a basketball state, right? And when I teach and talk to kids, it's about guarding home plate, right? So if I'm looking at home plate, I'm kind of guarding it. And if I'm guarding a guy and the basket's behind me, I wouldn't guard him sideways or 1 foot way up or 1 foot way back. I would guard him square up because I don't know which way he's going to go. And so we always talk about guarding home plate, standing, square with home plate, and then looking out at the pitcher. Because now I know my feet are square, my shoulders are fairly square, and now I start from that base, right? And I try to do the same thing with the stride. You try to keep it straight. You try to keep the bat going from A to B. So I want the bat to go from A to B as quick and short as possible, right? So that, to me, is like all just the basics of hitting, and you have to go back before you go forward, right? There has to be a loading action.
Who gave you your swing?
I think my swing came from just growing up playing. Number one, we played with, free. We played a lot in the backyard. I think I learned to hit the ball the other way, honestly, by playing wiffle ball in the backyard. We had a huge tree right here, and we played like, I don't know, if our block is like house, a garage. So, and we had this huge tree right here, and the only way to hit the ball to get hits, like into the alley, is a home run, but my garage is here, the tree's there. Left center is the only spot that you had open, right? So you learn to hit the ball the other way. And then like over here had to be line drives. That's why I think I had a little top spin early on, is that there's like a little fence that if you hit the bottom of it is a single, middle is a double, top's a triple, you hit it over that fence. So basically the home runs to right were like this, like line drives. And so I think my swing came from that, but just playing,
But wiffle ball really is almost kind of soft toss in a way, which is a lot of people.
Really?
No?
We would play, it's moving all over.
Oh, really?
Right?
So you had to kind of learn how to do that.
Yeah, and you tape, and usually we didn't have that, like you didn't have 10 wiffle balls, so you crack them, you just start taping them, so now they're getting harder and heavier, and we would actually play games that we would play like from here to the wall, which is probably 15 feet, where you could throw as hard as you wanted, and we would try to make, you're trying to play me and my brothers. So, talking about bat speed, you better, like it's that far where somebody's throwing the ball at you as hard as they want to throw it. And then they can change speeds too, so the same thing. But that's how you learn to play. And I, emulation, right? I wanted to be just like Rod Carew and hit the ball all over the field. I always looked at myself as, a guy that wanted to hit for average. I want to use the whole field, hit it where it's pitched, all those things. And then power came later.
Rod Carew.
Yeah, he can hit a little bit, huh?
What a hitter.
Yeah.
We don't talk enough about him. Kind of Tony Gwynn, Rod Carew.
Tony's great, too.
Seamless.
Bogsy, there's a lot of them. But, Rod was one of the guys growing up that that's who I wanted to be. And that's why I think I changed way too many stances over my career. As Rod changed, I thought it was okay to do it.
We'll take some questions. Yeah. You ready? Yeah.
Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you. You mentioned defense before, and I don't know if you caught the Gold Glove show on, I think it was on ESPN the other day.
I didn't.
Well,
Did not.
Mark Teixeira paid you the ultimate compliment.
Oh, nice.
He did. I think so. The compliment was he chose you as the best first baseman in the American League in the last 60 years.
Take that. Thank you.
You know what's funny, and not to get into a Met thing, but it was, at the same time you played and Keith played, maybe two of the best first basemen we've seen in our time, at the very least.
Yeah,
Both
Keith
of you
was
guys,
fun
right?
for me to watch, too. I would try to watch, like, if the Mets were on the West Coast, I'd catch Keith. And I never did understand how he got on the other side of the field like that and made plays at third until I got more in the National League where the pitcher's button and things like that. But Keith was amazing. Amazing at first.
Quick Facebook question from Charles Vogel. What's the hardest part about managing today?
I think you just got to stay in touch with your players more and more. The communication with guys, letting them know that you want to know what's going on with their families and what's happening with their lives. You want to stay in touch. So I think making sure that you're not playing that card that always says, in the old days we did this. In the old days, you really can't do that. You got to be able to keep up with your guys, know what's going on with them. I think communicate with them and just know that. One thing I never forget how hard the game is, and I always promise my guys that I'll never forget how hard this game is to play. These guys make it look easy. I know you guys probably think we make it look easy at times. It's not easy. And so I always promise them I'll never forget that. And I never forget that I know, even though the kids are doing different stuff, now they're on the Facebook, or they're all on Facebook's probably old now, right? So you got Snapchat and all the different stuff you do, right? Instagram, right? So it's just a different world, but I was in a different world than even Goose and Mickey Mantle and those guys. So they thought we probably had it made, and so it just kind of keeps going. The game keeps evolving, and I think we all feel the same way when you're 0 for 12. You have a bad night, you kick a ball that costs you a game. You know that kid feels just like you did, and you just don't want to forget, that part of it, the human side of it. So keeping in touch with your players, I think, is a main thing.
That's a good point. Back there.
So, Don, I think throughout your career you displayed just an unparalleled work ethic and desire for just continually improving. And what stayed with me for 30 years is I remember after you won the MVP in '85, you said, I can do better. I should do better. I didn't hit 300 against lefties last year.
Right.
And I think by the next year, you're 358.
Thanks.
You only struck out 13 times, 270 plate appearances. It's amazing.
So he knows my numbers. He's a Hernandez fan.
So I get the question, then, which is what I wonder about as a manager now. How do you inspire and how do you try to spark that same attitude, right? That same work ethic that you have? How do you try and get that in players? What do you do?
Oh, we talk about, for me, is kind of you turn the page all the time. And it's one of the things Brandon and I talked about earlier today, is one of the things that I kind of regret looking back, is I never kind of enjoyed the, kind of stop and smell the roses type thing, because you're always grinding for the next one. You win the MVP in '85. And in my mind, really, I had tons of bats I give away. I could have been better, should have been better. So you always think like that, right? And I think, but you don't stop and enjoy. So that part is kind of probably the negative side of that. But with my players, I really want to talk about, hey, every day we got to grind it out. So it's like we just need to get better all the time. And like we were also talking earlier, I don't get upset on games that we lose when we play well. Like if my team goes out and plays well, they play hard, we pitch pretty well, we guys have good at bats, they're into the game, and we get beat 5-4 or 4-3. It's not. Those games don't bother me near as much as if we play lazy, we're not paying attention that day, we just don't seem to be into it. Those kind of games bother me a lot more. But we always just kind of, with that, I have to have an understanding it's a long season, right? And everybody's not made exactly the same way. And some guys have more trouble doing that. Some guys do it easy, right? The guys that play every day and the guys that are playing a little part-time, those are the guys you kind of have talks with. About you got to keep grinding out. You can't let yesterday bother you. And that's what happens with guys a lot, is that they have a bad game and then it turns into 2 games. Next thing you know, they're letting 8, 10 at-bats fix the next 50. Right? So I'm always trying to get them to turn that page. Let's go, yesterday's gone, good or bad. So we got to turn the page and be ready to play tomorrow. And so you just kind of keep bringing that everyday mentality to your team, because there's so many games. I don't know how many times during the season you'll struggle, and New York this is one of the worst things about New York as for a player or probably a manager. You lose 5 or 6 games, or you lose 5 out of 8, and it's over. Your team's terrible. They're done. And then all of a sudden you win 4 or 5 in a row, and it's like, this is the greatest team I think I've ever seen. So your players kind of ride that wave too, right? So you want to get away from that media side and just our expectations for ourselves. Let's play well, keep our level up. Let's keep playing hard every day. Good things are going to happen. So you're always trying to, talk in those terms with your guys.
Lose 5 or 6 games and you're done would be a good thing. Are you owning or renting? And that question starts popping up. And who the next manager is going to be? Yeah, there's no love lost when things start sliding in this town. But we've had a lot of losing going on in New York lately. Other than, we've loved the Yankees, but, Giants, Jets. I was saying, this is sports therapy right now, New Yorkers.
Sports therapy is
a lot of losing going on. So we're trying to learn, and also we're loving the Yankees because and the Astros too.
Absolutely.
I was saying that this is not prototypical of how teams are getting built, so it's exciting. Quick Facebook question. What was your favorite moment as a player?
My favorite moment?
That was Shane Hoffman.
Well, Shane, I think the favorite moment for me probably goes back to the very start of my major league career is getting called up and walking down the tunnel of Yankee Stadium, old Yankee Stadium now, and just looking out in that horseshoe. And really, as you're a kid, you want to be in the big leagues, and you made it. And so it's like, that's probably the moment that you never forget, is that picture of, and I always see that I was playing left field at the time, so I'm looking at that corner out there, that outfield, and just the three decks. You don't play in those in the minor leagues. So just a great feeling of getting called up and making it, and it's something you never forget.
Nervous?
Probably, but I don't know.
Nervous as a manager ever, though?
Not really. I think anxious. Maybe earlier on. I think my first couple of years, you think you're ready, and you're really not. Honestly, to be all honest, I mean, interviewing for the Yankee job, I wasn't ready for that job. It's one of those things you're thankful. God, thanks for unanswered prayers, right? It's one of the things I wasn't ready for that job. Going to the National League with Joe. And seeing all the double switches and the way rosters are built, that was really good for me to be there for a while in that job in LA. So early on, you want good people around you. Make sure your bench coach is a guy that really knows the game, has been through it, can help guide you along. And from there, I've always felt like I'm going to learn quick. I'm going to pick up stuff fast. I know I'm going to pick up because I'm going to keep working. I'll be tough enough on myself to learn. I'll be hard enough. If I made mistakes, I'm going to admit it to myself. And even if the media usually will point it out to you anyway, but if you're making mistakes out there and things are going fast, you know it, and you just kind of keep learning and you keep getting better.
Yeah.
This is what we talked about. You got to keep getting better, and so I think as a manager, it's the same way. But the more I've been doing it, the more comfortable I get. The better you are at confrontation with players, and I shouldn't say at confrontation, but at discussions with players, because that's kind of the hardest part, is having to have a talk with, hey, you're not getting it done. You're going to have to, we got to get better, or we're going to have to make a move. So being honest with guys, I found is the best way, but up front and quick. Not letting it, Brandon's bothering me because he's not playing the game right. He's not doing stuff, and I let it go for a week. And that's the thing that I think I've learned more than anything is that, hey, let's deal with this right away. Let's get Brandon in the office. Let's talk about it right now. And so he knows where we stand.
Same thing in business. It's kind of
I'm sure
yeah.
the foundations have
Yeah.
to be the same.
Same thing.
The foundations of hard work
Yeah.
and the fundamentals of things and communication.
Question back there, yeah.
Two quick ones to tie it in with Mr. Steiner. Do you have a favorite piece of personal memorabilia from your playing days? And can we ever expect the mustache to make its glorious
And the mullet, and the mullet.
Well, there's not enough hair left to do a mullet. So the mustache is not coming back. Twofold, it's all white now. When it comes in, everything's all white. And my wife doesn't like it. So there we go. That ends that one. What was the other one?
personal memorabilia?
Oh, personal
Are you a
memorabilia.
collector?
I am a little bit of a collector. My favorite piece, I would probably, it was a gift. Rod Carew gave me a bat, and when I played in the All-Star game in '84, Rod must have heard that I was a fan or whatever. I probably read it, so I said it somewhere, and he gave me a bat and handed it to me, and
Cool.
so
There was
that
also a game in Oakland, '84, I think. Or no, it was '84 was
San
in
Francisco.
San Francisco, right?
You may have stayed in Oakland.
Yeah, I stayed in Oakland. Trying to scrape that money together. Right here. That was when you went to it, now it's like such a big, but back then it was,
Yeah.
right, it was just different.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Thanks for all the thrills you gave us, really. In '95, first of all, the biggest thrill for us was Game 2 when you hit that home run in the playoffs. In '95, they were describing how the stadium was shaking. As '95 went on, that year went on, and you were hurting, obviously. Did you know this was coming to an end right there, or did maybe that playoff series, since you were so good, did give you a little inspiration to maybe think of '96?
No, I knew. The funny thing is, like that last month, I started feeling like I finally kind of found my stride again. Month and a half, 2 months of that season, I started feeling really good. And I kind of found a leg kick, and I was able to be straight up and down. All of a sudden, my swing came back, and I had a little power again. But I probably would have retired in '94, honestly, if it wasn't for the strike. And so I was just having, more than anything, I was having, and a lot of people say, oh, you retired because of your back, whatever, because I still feel like I could play. I feel like I showed it at the end that I was still okay. I probably needed to play less, you know, at the end. Like Buck did that for me. He started playing me, you know, get me out a day a week. And it's one of the things I learned even from my own players. Playing a day less a week, I had probably better numbers than I would have if I played every day. I mean, you just hate coming out of there, but that rest was really good for me. So 94, I was thinking about it. And so the biggest issue for me was my kids. And they were getting older, and they just were not, they wanted to stay in Indiana during the summer. And so when I leave for spring training, I hardly ever see my kids. And they were getting older, and they were getting closer to high school, and it was like, you know, if I keep playing, they're not going to know their dad. And to be honest with you, it's something I couldn't have lived with, you know, that they didn't know me. And people ask all the time, oh, you missed that ring, you missed the ring. And, you know, it did hurt. 96 was a tough year to watch because I knew how close we were and we were going. But, you know, those rings, they're nothing like my boys, you know. So my boys know their dad.
Wow.
And that didn't mean that they came out perfect or things aren't, you know, we all have our issues and there's issues all over the place. But I think they know, that I was there, you know, and so I watched them grow. You know?
It must have been hard for you. It must have been hard.
96 was hard from that standpoint, just watching that, you know, not having that shot, you know. So that first year is your toughest year. I think but for me, it wasn't so hard because of that. After that, it was like, because I'm going to Pony League tournaments. I mean, my oldest son ended up in the Pony League World Series. He hits 2 home runs in a game. I would have missed that. Just little stuff happened that I was a dad out there with 6 kids in the car going to Super 8 motel in some town that you don't want to go. But you know what? That was part of going to, you know, being a dad and being part of those games and being a part of that. So there were things that I would have not been able to do, and they would have known that I wasn't there. And I think it's a good feeling not being able to do that.
That's the stuff you don't realize, you know. And where the hell's Donnie Baseball? Get back out there! Because, I mean that's how we all felt. We felt like, oh man, I know that guy could go more. I know he could play a couple more. But people just
I felt like I could. I really honestly did. And I think if you know, medicine even today is so much better. And treatment, and not so much treatment, but how to deal with things so much better. And I had back surgery after I basically came back and was helping out the Yankees in camp, and it seemed like it was like the next day I felt better. It was instant, and then you do your rehab and you pretty much live your life.
Take 2 more questions in the back there.
Quick question. Obviously, growing up in a small town, coming to New York before social media, but still in the spotlight. Now you're on the West Coast, managing. Now there is social media, but you're on the other side of the dugout, so to speak. Talk about the different pressures that you're feeling, East Coast, West Coast, social media, with social media, etc.
I'm not a big social media guy, so I never really felt pressure from it. It's just I'm not really. I hate dealing with the negative, and I know there's a lot of good things. I see a lot of good things that happen. A lot of people end up, you find out about cool things that have really happened in the world, through social media. My wife is like, she follows a lot of her friends, and she'll tell me stuff that's going on and all that. But I don't like the negative side of that, so I'm not really wanting to be out there and throw my name. And I know Brandon will disagree with me here on this, but I'm just not into it, right?
It's
I don't
not
want
too
to
late,
spend the time to follow it. But the pressure of the East Coast is definitely different than the West Coast. Just a different intensity in the East Coast fan than the West Coast, but still good fans. Dodger fans are great fans. They got a great following. They love their Dodgers. The whole thing, it's just a little less intense.
You go out there for BP, I see Joe, you guys are, it's like one media person there, one.
Yeah, it's pretty low key.
I'm like, where is everyone? He goes, no, this is one. He made an appointment, and I'm talking to him.
Oh, yeah. It's
You know,
pretty low
Yankee
key out
batting
there.
practice, like 40 media, they can't, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's different. It's different on that, the intense side of it. So, is that what you're asking? Yeah. I think I answered it.
We got one time. We have time for a couple more, or no? One more, right there.
I'm a huge fan.
Thank
I
you.
want to be the next Don Mattingly. As an overweight kid in the 80s, but I really worked on defense and hitting, and I wanted to become a student of the game. Like, but fast forward, when I was looking at those baseball cards, back then those guys weren't huge. Most of the guys were just great players. Today, do you feel like your players are more about the strength and conditioning, about being the big players? And do you feel like with things like social media, the younger generation is like, wow, these guys have to be big and not be a student of the game? And because, they always talk about people don't bunt much anymore, or hit and run is not a big thing. Do you feel like it's more about those big guys and the strength from player perspectives, and is it difficult for you as a manager to kind of reconcile that?
Well, number one, players are bigger, faster, stronger. I think that's just the evolution of training and all that. So that part is just part of what happens in the game. So that part is to me is just the way it is, right?
How about Altuve?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Altuve gives everyone, I think, hope, right? When you see him up there and he's barely over Sanchez's head, right? He's standing there and he's barely taller when Sanchez is catching. So this kid can really, really hit, right? But what other part? Tell me that question again.
Do you feel it's hard to reconcile the fact that, again, a lot of it is about strength and
Okay,
conditioning
yeah.
versus being a student of the game?
So with that, I think there's been that evolution keeps coming. Like the guys are bigger and stronger and faster. But the one good thing there's a lot of analytics, right? That we see all kinds of numbers that measures guys in different ways. It kind of predicts the future of what they are right now, what they're doing, and their numbers. A lot of the analytics are basically telling you, can this guy sustain that, right? Can he be good for another 2 years or 3 years? Or his numbers are starting to change, these peripheral numbers, and now this guy looks like he's on the downside, right? So that's kind of giving us all kinds of information, but the players know that too. They see StatCast. They see the routes they're running, right? And they're given credit now for route efficiency. Covering defense now is getting more credit. This guy's his zone ratings are good, and the Gold Glove has even got a lot to do with what ground you cover and what your ratings are. That's part of the formula, right? So I think the analytics of the game are really making guys more complete. Really, I think so. That's kind of coming around full circle. Because there's so much talk of analytics, when you see Baseball Tonight or ESPN or any of the shows, and there's so much analytics when you talk. And so the guys know that too. So I think that's helping them know that, hey, defense is important. Jason Hayward is getting paid huge money, and really a lot of it's because he's a really, really good defensive player. His offense has not, stayed the same with his defense. But I think players see that there's attention for all these things, right? And I think that's one of the things today we see more and more, right? Every manager they talk about, right? He's got a good understanding of analytics. He's got a good understanding of analytics. And a lot of people, the old school guys are like, man, analytics. If you don't pay attention to analytics, you're a fool. You really are, because analytics tell you what a guy's doing. They show you all it is. It's statistics, right? We love statistics in baseball. We talk statistics. We measure guys by home runs, RBIs, whatever it is, right? Now it's changing how you're getting measured. It's on base, weighted on base. How's this guy on the road? His numbers on the road. So all those numbers tell you a story, right? And that's really what, to me, analytics are. They're telling me a story about a player, how good he is. Is he as good as I think this guy's really good. Well, analytics, I think he runs good routes in the outfield. Well, the StatCast tells me he's not really running that great of a route, right? He's overcoming it with speed or whatever it is. And another guy that I worry about one year, I remember it was, I don't even know to say the name. I'm like, this guy's defense.
You can say it between
No,
us.
I can't. I'm saying his defense, man, he's not getting to this ball. And then I go to our analytics guy, what's this guy, tell me his routes. And he's like, hey, he runs like one of the best routes in the game. And really it was more that the way he ran didn't look like he was fast, right? It didn't look like he was getting after it, but he was running efficient routes and he was getting the balls. So everything's telling me a story, so you have to use it all.
I mean, it's true, you can't manage what you can't measure. And in business, we've been using numbers forever, and it's only inevitable, since this sports thing is a business that comes that way.
Absolutely.
2 quick things. Hall of Fame, you're back.
Back.
Veterans committee.
Just saying. it would be a crazy thought, but could the Hall of Fame be knocking on your door maybe one day?
Oh, obviously, I don't,
Okay.
it's out of my hands.
Yes.
But what I will say about that is just that you're honored, like, that list of guys, and Alan Trammell, and
Yep.
Tommy John, and a lot of different guys on that, and Jack Morris, just honored to have your name on that list, so.
Well, you seem good. You seem happy. Don Mattingly Charities on January 9th. DonMattinglyCharities.org, I should say.
There you go.
If you want to make a donation or come down, it'll be a great event with
Yeah.
Bernie Williams.
Slide Indiana.
You seem good. You seem happy. I mean,
I am. I love- I
good
love
point
what
of your
I'm doing.
life. Am I reading you wrong? Or
Absolutely. I got a beautiful 3-year-old, getting ready to be 3 at home. Again, I talked about earlier that I love the situation in Miami. I think what we're building is going to be something special. I think it's going to be a sustainable model that we can be good every year. I am. I'm happy. I love what I do. I don't know.
We love having you up here. It's such a treat today to have you up here and with our most valuable customers. So thank you for coming up, Don. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.